A tense moment in British politics after the Prime Minister was confronted on live television with polling data suggesting that many viewers felt the recent budget had left them worse off. Welcome to UK Ago. The exchange raised broader questions about communication, accountability, and how government decisions are explained to the public. If you appreciate clear and balanced political analysis, make sure to like this video early on. It really helps the channel. The situation unfolded when Prime Minister Keir Starmer appeared on GB News to discuss the government's recent budget, delivered by Chancellor Rachel Reeves. The budget included a number of tax changes that have been widely debated, particularly regarding their impact on working households and pensioners. During the interview, host Christopher Hope presented real-time polling from viewers expressing frustration about being financially strained and feeling that the budget had negatively affected their plans for the holiday season. Hope asked the Prime Minister directly how he responded to people who felt worse off. Moments like these typically give leaders an opportunity to acknowledge public concerns, explain difficult policy choices, or show empathy toward those experiencing financial pressure. Instead, Starmer repeated prepared responses emphasizing that the government believed the decisions were necessary and fair, and that contributions were being asked across the board to support essential public services. If you want more content that cuts through political noise in a straightforward way, don't forget to subscribe because it keeps these breakdowns going. One of the central points raised by the Prime Minister was the funding of the National Health Service. He argued that the tax changes were part of an effort to stabilize the NHS at a time when demand for healthcare remains high. This is a common justification used by governments when introducing revenue-raising measures, and the NHS is consistently one of the most valued institutions in the UK. However, some viewers felt that referencing the NHS did not directly address their underlying concern, the immediate financial impact on their personal budgets. Hope then asked a follow-up question that has been widely discussed, whether increasing taxes on working people while increasing certain benefits could be justified. This is a long-standing debate in British politics regarding redistribution, social support, and tax fairness. Starmer rejected the idea that the government was shifting resources unfairly and stated that part of the budget's intention was to reduce child poverty. According to him, supporting children living in difficult circumstances was a priority aligned with the government's values. Critics online argued that this answer did not fully address the specific question about tax burdens, and that invoking children's welfare in a general way did not clarify how the broader policy framework functions. Supporters, on the other hand, noted that child poverty is a long-term challenge and that governments are expected to allocate resources toward addressing it. The discussion shows how complex social policy debates become when framed in short interview segments. If you find breakdowns like this useful for understanding policy without the usual political heat, tap the like button so the video reaches more people. Another point of contention raised online related to pensioners. Recent policy decisions around winter fuel payments prompted discussion about whether some vulnerable groups might feel overlooked. For many older people on fixed incomes, winter support payments are an important part of their budgeting, especially during periods of higher energy costs. Any adjustment to these payments naturally attract concern. The government maintains that its changes are part of a wider restructuring of social support, while critics argue that pensioners face unique financial pressures. This contrast in perspectives is part of the wider UK debate on welfare, spending, and intergenerational fairness. Throughout the interview, Starmer's tone became noticeably more defensive as the questioning continued. This is not unusual for political interviews where polling data is presented live, especially when the feedback is negative. However, body language and tone often shape public perception just as much as the substance of the answers. Some viewers interpreted the Prime Minister's responses as avoiding the core questions, while others saw them as consistent with long-stated government positions about responsible budgeting. Journalistic scrutiny is an essential part of democracy, and the interaction between Hope and Starmer was a reminder of the role broadcasters play in pressing leaders to explain government decisions. Presenting polling data directly to a political leader can be uncomfortable, but allows the public to see how officials respond under pressure. Whether the interview is perceived as an ambush or as proper accountability largely depends on individual expectations of political communication. For regular, balanced breakdowns of these political moments, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. It's also worth noting that the polling reference came from GB News viewers, who represent a particular segment of the public. While their responses provide valuable insight, they may not reflect the views of the entire population. Broader national polling from independent organizations will ultimately show how widespread the concerns are. Still, the intensity of viewer reactions reflects real anxiety about living costs and household budgets, issues faced by people across the UK, regardless of political affiliation. The core questions emerging from the interview remain important. How should a government balance raising revenue with protecting household finances? How can support for vulnerable groups be provided without overburdening others? How transparent should leaders be about trade-offs in economic policy? These are not simple questions, and they are part of ongoing national debates that will continue well beyond a single interview segment. What matters is that discussions happen openly, and that decisions affecting the public are clearly explained. Before we continue, if you value this kind of calm, factual analysis without sensationalism, don't forget to hit like. It helps a lot. In summary, the GB News interview became a focal point not because of dramatic confrontation, but because it highlighted the tension between political messaging and public sentiment. The government argues that its decisions are designed to stabilize essential services and reduce long-term inequalities. Many viewers, however, are focused on immediate financial pressures. The contrast between these perspectives made the exchange particularly notable. So what do you think? Was the Prime Minister's response reasonable given the circumstances, or should he have addressed the concerns more directly? Share your thoughts in the comments. Respectful discussion is always welcome. And if you want more balanced, in-depth political breakdowns without bias, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's a lot more happening in British politics, and we'll be covering it all right here.